Here's our Make tutorial on using MakeCAP's new design features in Beta 2013 for DDR spacing. Capture properties for net physical type and net spacing type are assigned to nets. They don't exist by themselves in Capture. And when Capture is net listed to Constraint Manager and Allegro, these properties are converted, mapped, and translated into classes of the same name. But classes themselves don't exist in Capture, and these properties don't exist unless assigned to nets in Capture. In Constraint Manager, class objects exist on their own. They don't need to be assigned to nets, and you can create these without associated nets in MakeCAP Design. Here's what we're going to do in this movie. We're going to set up interlayer line spacing between DDR byte lanes using classes and CSets. There's three different relationships we need to describe. One is between a DDR byte lane, B0 in this example, and all other nets on the board, a 20 mil wire to wire. The second one is between this byte lane and other byte lanes, a 15 mil interlayer clearance line to line. And within the nets in the byte lane 0, we want to allow a 10 mil byte lane 0 to itself. To start, let's open up Spacing CSet. You can now see a list of all spacing classes, and if any CSets are assigned, they're shown here. We're going to go to the button to define a new spacing class. There's a new class button on each of the worksheet screens. We're just going to simply give it a name and do a save. And it's automatically added to the list as it's built. And we're going to create 8 byte lanes 0 through 7 for this movie. You'll also notice that we've renamed CSet Designer to its proper name Design, and the TCF export is now part of the Make Out option. So we'll continue on and we'll create these 8 classes. Again, being in design, they're not associated with any nets. There's the 8 classes, and you see it in the list. And if we scroll down and highlight the 20 mil CSet, you'll see it appear in the upper right as the selected CSet. We'll highlight the 8 classes we just created, and we'll now assign the selected CSet to those classes. That's that easy. So now each of the byte lanes has a 20 mil interlayer line to line to all of their nets on the board using the 20 mil CSet. Now we're going to go to the class-to-class list and see that we just have the inherited ones. So we're going to create some new class-to-class relational objects. And the class-to-class grid will show it. I'm going to show you 2 ways to do this. In the first example, I'm going to select the entire block of all byte lanes. And in one step, all class-to-class relationships have been created. Each byte lane to each other byte lane, and each byte lane to itself. Byte lanes to themselves are highlighted in yellow in the list. We're going to select the 10 mil CSet for byte lane to itself, make that the selected CSet, and select each of the yellow barred class to itself. So this will allow a 10 mil clearance in a byte lane for all bits to themselves. We'll assign it, and then we'll do a sort. So now that all that's left unassigned are the byte lanes to other byte lanes, we'll select the 15 mil CSet, highlight those, assign them, and we're all done. We've created all the classes, all the class-to-class, and assigned all the CSet relationships based on our initial spec and design intent requirement. What I'm going to do now, though, is do it a second way. So first I'm going to delete the CSet assignments. I'll highlight these CSets and hit the delete key and delete them because I haven't saved them to MakeCAP yet. They're just in our work area. And now I'll do it a second, more efficient way. But you can do it whatever way is most comfortable and easy to manage from a process point of view. First, I'm going to highlight just the class to themselves by doing a diagonal block across the grid. Now I have all the class to themselves. I'll pick the 10 mil CSet, make that the active one, highlight these because they're right there visible, apply it, and they'll all be done. Now I'll go back to define class to class and bring up the grid a second time. And I can draw right over it, and it will create the other class to class relationships and not touch the ones that we've already defined and assigned CSets to. So now I can easily see where to apply my 15 mil. I don't need to poke around and just find the class to themselves. It's all organized for me. I'll use a shift key to highlight all these, apply the 15 mil for class to other byte lane classes, and we're all done. This time I will save an update to design in MakeCAP. My next step is to return to MakeCAP. Let's take a quick review first. You can see where everything is. There's the 20 mil on the classes, on the byte lanes to all other nets. There's the 10 mil byte lane to itself. And the 15 mil byte lane to other byte lanes. That was our task, and it only takes a couple of minutes in MakeCAP design. We'll return to MakeCAP, and we'll go up to the beta menu and open up MakeOut, TCF, and output a TCF file. I'll import this in the TCF techfile import menu, but first let's take a look at the current status of this BRD before we import it. So you can see a before and after. Here you can see there's no byte lane classes defined. There's no class to class for byte lane since those classes don't exist. We'll go back to the Allegro file menu and do an import on techfile. We could do this through the CM techfile import just as transparently. This is an Allegro compliant techfile that MakeCAP design outputs. So let's import the TCF file that we just output and exported from MakeCAP design. Now let's go back and look at the spacing worksheet in Constraint Manager. Now we see the byte lane classes have been defined and the 20 mil CSet has been applied. If we go to the class to class screens, we'll see the various byte lane relationships. We'll see the 20 mil to the byte lane, the 10 mil CSet for byte lanes to themselves, and 15 mil CSets and relationships between each byte lane and each other byte lane. So this is the complementary design flow that is providing all the relationships class to class and CSet assignments for Constraint Manager. On the capture side, we would still like again to assign nets to these classes, or we could do this in Constraint Manager later, but the entire flow is meant to be here in MakeCAP with Capture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use one byte lane as an example, pick some nets randomly from my net list, and assign that byte lane class to those nets. So I'm in the standard class assign portion of MakeCAP. So now I'll highlight those selected nets. I've picked the class I want to use. I'm going to do an assign. That class has been assigned, and then I'll update and save to MakeCAP. If we look in the MakeCAP grid, under net spacing type, we can see that class has been assigned to those nets. And when we open up the screen, we can see the inherited property viewer showing all the relationships that are waiting for that class when you netlist from Capture into Constraint Manager and Allegro. Thanks for watching. Let us know if you have any questions.